Okay, everyone, it's Andrew Lampett. I'm back. We're going to go ahead and start the webinar. Looks like people are still trickling in, but we can go ahead and get started. Again, my name is Andrew Lampett, and I'm joined with Sanjeev Nath. This is an introduction to Wikidsmart, and this is going to Wikidsmart allows you to deliver instant integration and composite applications for your software engineering environment, CRM, and more. So first, a little bit about the company, Zagile. Our mission is to integrate teams, tools, processes, and knowledge. So we started off with software engineering, but as you're going to see, the platform expands to any domain. Founded back in 2006, I'll let you glance at our partners and selected customers. I would particularly like to point out some pretty nice press coverage we received from InfoWorld and SD Times. You can just Google Zagile and those publications to read those articles. So what's the agenda we have lined up today? What is Wikidsmart, both an overview and the benefits related to the platform and the applications. We'd like to cover also typical integration approaches that are available today. And also we'd like to get into some very detailed examples of integration challenges that you will encounter if you're trying to integrate something like Confluence with JIRA or Confluence with Salesforce, for example. Finally, an overview of the platform and the applications itself. So we'll get into a little bit more detail of what the magic is behind the Wikidsmart platform. We'll talk about what's new in Wikidsmart version 4.0. Now, the release is imminent. We're going to schedule it for July 9th. We want to respect the U.S. holiday next week, and so we'll put out the release on the following Monday, July 9th. And then we'll have a summary and suggestions for next steps before we do the demo with Sanjeev. It's probably going to be about 20-30 minutes for the slide portion and about 30 minutes for the demo portion as well. So first of all, what is Wikidsmart? There's a couple major concepts here I'd like to cover. And over these next several slides, you'll see that it's quite analogous to that famous parable of the blind men encountering the elephant. One man grasps the trunk of the elephant and says, "Oh, it's a snake." Another man grasps the leg and says, "Oh, it's a tree." And I think you're going to find also you're going to perceive Wikidsmart a little bit differently based upon whether your immediate requirement is integrating two tools or achieving requirements management or integrating Salesforce with some other products in your environment. So you might perceive it a little bit differently, and this overview is meant to cover everything. So first and foremost, this is an integration platform. And today, as you're going to see, we're able to integrate instantly software engineering environment concepts amongst each other, as well as integrate the CRM side of things. In the future, we're going to be able to integrate also cloud applications, for example, Zendesk for help desk, accounting, Intact. And so what you'll be able to do is click a button and instantly integrate any application with the rest of your environment. And I know that sounds too good to be true. We're going to describe the magic behind the scenes so you'll see how that's possible. The second major concept is Wikidsmart is a template-based, model-driven composite application platform. So when I say template-based, you're able to, we have two concepts of templates within Wikidsmart, meaning those templates are manifested within a wiki, within the Confluence wiki. You could enable the same concept with any other application or tool that would allow it as well. You could have Portal, for example, with the template base. But essentially, it's model-driven composite application platform. So that means you can achieve these examples of applications within the existing environment you already have. So for example, requirements management within Confluence integrated with JIRA. Test case management and automation within Confluence integrated with JIRA and Selenium. And again, I name these applications and tools. They can be any applications and tools, but we have all of these connectors right out of the box that I'm mentioning. So what are some of the benefits associated with this platform? First, the easy one that people can grasp pretty instantly is this instant integration. It's pretty nice. It's pretty magical when you can just say, integrate Confluence, integrate JIRA, integrate Selenium, and you don't have to do any development work. It's all done for you in advance. So every time you plug into an application, that application instantly recognizes all the content and concepts of all the other applications that are already connected. So this provides this smart content, this smart cohesion of content and flow of content between tools and applications. And therefore, you can build new applications that also smartly recognize the content. These applications, like I described before, with requirements management and test case management, etc. Very importantly, you're able to achieve insightful information. So thanks to this integration platform, you're able to easily find content with a faceted precision search. So you're able to, for example, look for a specific requirement within a project and only retrieve that requirement. But also you can see the tangentially related concepts of that requirement, the tasks, the issues, the customers, the developers, anything related to that requirement. And that also comes in with on the lineage and traceability side. So you can traverse tangential concepts like you're surfing across one environment, but actually that content is residing in repositories of different applications and tools. And finally, you can also use this context, this integration layer to do reporting and dashboards. So you can report directly against this integration layer to see the status of, from end to end, the software delivery process and how that relates to the sales side of things with customers as well. And very pleased to say this is future-proof. So everything you're seeing here is open source, and it's implemented with open standards. So we didn't go off and use our own proprietary way, and we're kind of holding the keys to the kingdom. We're providing everything open standards way that you can easily find skills or learn how to use the platform. You can have, of course, also Zagile help you with services and training too if you want to go faster. A very important concept I want to point out is Zagile lets you leverage the strengths of things you already have in-house. For example, with Confluence, it's very easy to create content. It's very easy to collaborate. It's very accessible to the whole enterprise. Let's take advantage of that. Likewise with JIRA, a powerful, extremely popular task management tool, an issue tracker. It has extensible workflow built in. Let's use that. These are two tools that we're going to talk about a lot in the environment and in the demo. You can integrate any other tools, and the environment does not require Confluence or JIRA. However, I want to emphasize, let's take advantage of the strengths of the tools that you already have. So a little bit about integration approaches that people take today. A very common one in software engineering is the manual and point-to-point. Why is that? Well, it's because they have tactical requirements. They just want to connect two tools to achieve whatever kind of short-term requirement they have. The other thing is, if you look at software engineering from an integration perspective, it's been a second-class citizen. ETL providers and EAI providers don't typically go there because there's not a lot of budget allocated to achieve those kinds of integration projects, and it's very, very hairy. Also, those suites that do exist for integration tend to be very expensive. Talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. So small teams and mid-sized teams, or small or mid-sized companies, they don't really get solutions to integrate all their software engineering environment. And so therefore they have to rely on point-to-point connectors. Well, what are you giving up? You're not achieving any of these things in the columns on the right-hand side: interoperability, traceability, faceted search, or composite applications. Now, each of these approaches does have their strengths, as they're listed in that second column. ETL, fantastic for building and maintaining a data warehouse. But again, you're not going to achieve these things listed in the right. Wikidsmart, that last row on the right, at the bottom, however, allows you to achieve instant integration for your software engineering environment and CRM. How much development effort do you have to do? None. You actually just take advantage of the environment on day one. Very deep interoperability, traceability, faceted search, and the ability to have composite applications. In a nutshell, what you have with the traditional approaches is integratable. So in other words, they'll say there are or there are not connectors for this system, and here you go. Go ahead, go to it. Go build the integrations yourselves, and that's going to take weeks or months sometimes. The Wikidsmart approach, on the other hand, says it's all ready to go. Here are the connectors. Everything is integrated. You achieve already traceability, faceted search for all the content as well. So how is that possible? We're going to get into that in just a moment. First, now let's talk about some specific challenges that we're going to find with each of the scenarios integrating different tools. I'm going to talk about 3 sets of integrations. First, Confluence and JIRA. Well, within Confluence, a challenge is there's no semantics associated with what that page is. So if you're creating a requirement on the wiki page, Confluence doesn't know what that is. JIRA doesn't know that's a requirement. It's just implicit. So there. Secondly, it's not really possible to establish a formal link to other objects. So indeed, you might be able to put an issue in from JIRA within Confluence, but there is no declarative concept that, oh, this is a task related to this requirement, or this is an issue related to this test, or whatever it may be. So when you're doing this, embedding a JIRA task into the page, that relationship is not captured. So if it's not captured, of course, it's not going to be accessible anywhere else, including JIRA. That relationship is implied. So in other words, the people who create the relationship, they know it's there, but no one else in the organization knows, and certainly the software engineering tools don't know those concepts either. And so that means it's going to be impossible to access other task-related information. So for example, if I want to get the result of a task execution that was performed using Selenium, I'm out of luck. There's no way for me to easily find that. And you cannot link a page, for example, to execute ready scripts from Selenium for test case automation. So in all, there is extremely limited ability to share information between Confluence and JIRA. It's always implicit. There is no overall unified principle of concepts sharing amongst the tools. Now let's talk quickly about Confluence and Salesforce. First of all, it's very costly to build and maintain any kind of integrations, even if connectors are out there to help you jumpstart things. There's no bidirectional integration between those tools except Wikidsmart. You can't instantly create any content from Salesforce. For example, a wiki page from Salesforce. Say you have an account within Salesforce and you want to share this information with a broader team. Well, as you're going to see in Wikidsmart, you can click a button and boom, you have an account page within the wiki. You can modify, for example, comments in the wiki, and that's shared back into Salesforce, into the comments section there. There's no way to search concepts in Salesforce. For example, if I want to look in Salesforce under an account, show me all the tasks related to this customer, the issues related to this customer, the cases related to this customer. If it doesn't reside in Salesforce, I'm out of luck. I can't get the content from JIRA, I can't get it from Confluence, etc. So JIRA and test case management. Some folks say, let's just try to use JIRA for test management. Well, if you look online, whether it's LinkedIn or on Quora or on the Atlassian forums, this has all sorts of challenges associated with it. You need to clone the test for each execution. So therefore, you cannot reuse the tests, and you can't just modify a test and say, okay, apply that test to all these other areas. You have to modify each one because it's a clone. And you cannot easily capture execution results related to a particular feature or requirement. And finally, these test execution results cannot be easily tied to Confluence artifacts. So which requirement has what test case, and were they executed with what results? So it's very hard to kind of track down what's going on between the test case management and automation and issues, etc. And there's no integration with test automation tools, for example, Selenium. So as you're going to see in the demo, you're able to actually achieve that directly from JIRA. You could also achieve it from Confluence or otherwise if you wanted as well. So now I'm going to start describing the magic of how Wikidsmart works. And to do that, I'm going to take a step back and say, where are we today? So if you look at traditional applications as they are today, we have that same old famous concept of silos, of not only content, but also concepts. So if you look at a wiki, you got the GUI, you've got the data store. In the Confluence situation, it's a file structure. And then you have the concepts of users and spaces, etc., and pages. There's no concept of, requirements or tests or issues or what have you. It's just, and that's, one of the great things about a wiki is you can put anything in there. Now look at, for example, JIRA. You've got your GUI, you've got your repository, and you've got these concepts of projects and users and tasks, okay? And so on down the line with all the different applications and tools. Now, what happens when you add Wikidsmart to the environment? Here's what you get. Imagine, if you will, this intermediate layer that is representing all enterprise concepts and processes and artifacts, okay? And that is between the GUI and whatever repository or data store that you have. Okay, so you see the GUIs on top for the different applications and tools. On the bottom, you've got their same old data stores that they talk to. Now, they will continue, of course, to talk to their own repository, but now they have another advantage. They can talk to every other application and tool thanks to this intermediate layer, this enterprise knowledge model. Nowadays, people are using this concept of knowledge graph. If you look at Google and if you look at a lot of other popular social applications out there, they're using this concept of graph. In this context, I'm just calling it model. So if you look under the software engineering section within that middle area, things like, this is covering things like each ball represents a different concept, issues, tests, requirements, features. All of those concepts are interrelated. So we've defined that for you out of the box with Wikidsmart. It's based upon an ISO standard specification called SEMDM. I invite you to Google that, and you can find that document. It's a fantastic document. So that's an industry standard. We didn't invent that. That describes things like, software engineering has code and it has issues related to it, and documentation folks write doc for the code, and QA folks write tests for the code. So those are all concepts that are encapsulated in this knowledge model. So therefore, you can see now when you have a connector that plugs into Confluence or JIRA, it instantly recognizes its place in the world. You don't have to program that logic in. It's already there for you. Likewise with Salesforce and with whatever other applications or domains and applications that are added in the future, whether that's accounting or ERP or what have you. So again, this knowledge model is known as a graph also in other domains. So it's concepts and how they're related to one another. It's people and their roles. So there's developers, there's QA testers, there's doc writers, etc. Functions and process, how everything is cohesive together and how one process serves another. And I covered these examples earlier for software engineering, but also for CRM. It's not rocket science, or I should say, it's not very widely argued about. Prospects can become contacts, and accounts have contacts, and there's opportunities associated with them. CRMs and software engineering tools might operate differently amongst different tools, but they're all managing these same general concepts. So thanks to this knowledge model, we're opening up new opportunities. First of all, this one, all these different disparate applications now look like they're using one information store across the enterprise. In reality, the information store is residing locally within each tool and application, but thanks to this intermediate layer, it tells you how everyone's connected, and therefore you can access information from one tool into the other. That gives you guaranteed interoperability of the applications. That gives you a reporting layer that you can have a cohesive view of what's going on with reporting and dashboards. You can find precise items and their tangentially related ones instantly instead of doing just a keyword search. And now you can answer questions that were not possible before. Things like, how much revenue did that feature generate, or how much did that issue cost us? And then finally, you can achieve new composite applications manifested within those existing GUIs of the tools you already have, or within a portal, or within a wiki. So how does that work? What does that look like within Wikidsmart? So these architectures, these next two slides give you a very quick overview of what it looks like, how it functions. So you've got the different domains of software engineering on top with requirements management, issue tracking, version control, and the corresponding tools listed underneath them. And what happens is Wikidsmart imports certain attributes, uh, the conceptually related concepts that you see listed there, for example, under requirements, project, milestone, test plan. Those things are all imported into the Wikidsmart repository, and they are mapped to this knowledge model that I just described. And now, voila, you have everything already instantly integrated. So that's the concept, is uh, importing only that tangentially related content, not everything like notes and images and everything like that. Anytime a detail is required, it will go back to that repository itself. So now that we've imported that content and we have that knowledge model map, that opens us up to be able to deliver powerful new applications. So what's happening here is kind of an extension of that previous image that was just shown. You're importing the content, you're capturing and integrating that content from these tools and applications on the left, and now look on the right. Now you can deliver a unified view, and you can also deliver these new applications that are listed there called PM, QA, ALM, and CRM. So what are those all about? I'll go through them very briefly. Wikidsmart PM, standing for product managers or product management, allows you to manage requirements within Confluence tied to JIRA, Greenhopper, and other tools for traceability. Wikidsmart QA gives you the test case management for QA professionals within Confluence, integrated with JIRA, Selenium for automation and traceability. Wikidsmart ALM includes all of the features that I just mentioned, plus integration with continuous integration and version control. And finally, Wikidsmart CRM allows you to have integration between Salesforce and Confluence and JIRA. So Wikidsmart version 4.0, again, it's going to be launching July 9th. Here's a quick overview of some of the features. So Confluence 4.2 support and JIRA 5 support are a couple of the major things that folks have been requesting recently. You're also going to have a lot of other powerful extensions, things like versioning and diffs, so that you can see the versions of the content of Wikidsmart as it changes over time and see the differences as things change over time. More powerful security with the Spring framework, particularly for SaaS applications. If you have already existing content, for example, we have had a number of customers who had requirements within Microsoft Access or other tools. Now you're able to import that content directly into Wikidsmart with this CSV import and map that all instantly. And then there's also some handy capabilities like a hierarchy tree within Confluence. So you can see all the concepts within software engineering in an instant, just in a visual way, with pretty much like a Windows Explorer type interface, so that you can see, all the requirements within projects, for example, and all the tests within projects. So I want to summarize and then be able to hand it over to Sanjeev for the demo. So first thing is, this is open source and ready to go. You just download it, follow the documentation for the install, or if for the various versions that are supported. No dev is required. It's just ready to go. You have the choice to use this for tactical requirements or very specific solutions. So tactical would be things like, I need to integrate Confluence and Salesforce. That's all I want to achieve. Here's an easy way to do that. Or you might say, hey, I want to achieve requirements management, or I want to achieve test case management and automation. Here's an easy way to do that, a solution that's all ready to go. We provide templates, and those templates are customizable for you. And remember, Wikidsmart is contextually integrating content from any software engineering tool, and I should add CRM as well. Therefore, you're guaranteed traceability, interoperability, and faceted search for all the content that you're working with. And finally, you can achieve composite applications, so you can manifest those composite applications within whatever GUI you choose. So resources I'd like to suggest to you, videos on YouTube and Zagile.com. Make sure to take a look at that. We have a nice library of those. Download Wikidsmart. It's open source. It's free. Go ahead, use it within your organization. Check out that doc folder on the install for all the instructions you're going to need for the installation. And ask us questions. Ask them to Agile, ask them to the community. So we have a hosted environment at zagile.com. It's just an example environment. You can't add in your own stuff, but you can go and see how the features already interact with the hosted environment. Just log in there. You can post questions on the wiki pages there in the comments section, and Zagile or other community members will respond to those. And also we have a Wikidsmart group on LinkedIn. That's where we tend to post a lot of the marketing updates for webinars and latest observations in the industry. And remember, Zagile can help. So contact us. There's the email address, sales@zagile.com. And why would you want to engage with Zagile? Well, as I mentioned, a lot of the stuff is ready to go. Just download it and use it. However, if you have specific requirements that you want to make sure that everything is bulletproof, we're here to help you secure your project and make sure it's running at peak performance. If you want to modify templates and you want to have questions answered very quickly, we can provide that to you. If you want to extend the templates or add new connectors, we can provide services for you to go faster. So essentially, we can secure your project and also help you go much faster. So with that, I'd like to hand it over to Sanjeev for the demo. It looks like we're running right on time. I wanted to aim for the 25-30 minutes for the slides portion. Are you ready to go, Sanjeev?
Yeah, I am. Thank you, Andrew. I will change and make myself presenter. Greetings, everyone. So thank you also for joining us today for the webinar. What I want to do with the demo is to cover two themes in terms of Wikidsmart platform, its capability for integration and interoperability. And so the first theme would be to actually show Wikidsmart integrating a SaaS app, in this case Salesforce, with your enterprise applications, basically on-premise applications. In this case, it would be JIRA, Confluence, and Selenium. So one example of this you will see is really integrating applications from both on-premise and from outside. And then the second example, or the second theme as part of this demo, is integration of different groups within an organization. So using Salesforce as an example with Jira, Confluence, and Selenium in this case, what we'll show you is how you can tie sales with engineering and support, as well as other groups within the organization. So let's first start. I'll just share my screen now, and we can start with Salesforce. So what I'm going to do first is, and again, the types of application and number of applications that you integrate within the Wikidsmart platform, it really depends on what's there within the enterprise and the use cases that you want to implement. But what we want to do as part of this overview is to really show you the full capabilities of its breadth in terms of the types of things that you can integrate. So first, what we'll do is to create an account in Salesforce. So let's say it is BD integrators. It's a customer, and they support engineering. So BD, we have signed a customer here. BD integrators provide big data integration. And then we'll put some address information here. As you can see, I've been adding quite a lot of addresses here lately. Okay, So we've created an account in Salesforce. Now, the use cases here, some of the use cases that you can manage in terms of this integration is customer onboarding, for example, customer case management, and so on. So as a starting point, we sign a customer, we add them or create an account for them within Salesforce. Now, one of the things you can do, for example, is from within Salesforce page itself, you can create a JIRA issue. So, for example, as you set up an account, maybe there's a task that needs to get started in terms of potentially, creating an SLA or maybe scheduling installation or scheduling training or something like that. So you'll see here that without having to go to JIRA, so this is an example of interoperability where without going into JIRA, you can, a salesperson can automatically create a JIRA task. But not only that, the interoperability goes beyond that because you will see the JIRA task automatically show up right here. And again, you can actually interact with it. So you can add descriptions and stuff to the task here. So for example, in the summary, we can just say, set up product orientation. So this would be something like a to-do related to this particular customer that you want to track. And you can use JIRA for actually tracking it. So call BDI for product orientation schedule. Okay. So you can interact with it right here. And now you've updated the JIRA issue. You can also, for example, just go directly to JIRA and see the issue here. And as people who are actually internally working on scheduling, in this case, product orientation sessions and so on, they can go in there and add comments or resolve it or close it or whatever. And as you start to do that, the status of this particular issue will be updated automatically within Salesforce. So this is one example of this integration. Now let's, now this is essentially reflecting the activity of sales. So now let's create a case, for example. So, customer support starts to log in a case for this customer. And so let's say that we will create an initial case. Maybe the customer is having problems with installation. So they call in or they email, and then there's some detailed description of the installation environment. And using this integration, you can also share attachments between JIRA and Confluence. So let's say that we've created a case here, and now we can go back to the account record within Salesforce. So between an account itself and a case, we've created two different entities within Salesforce. You can see how an account is automatically related to a JIRA task, a to-do type, if you will. You can do the same thing with case because typically support will log in case for a particular customer. But if a case requires some resolution within engineering, then they may want to create a JIRA ticket and link that case to it so that it can be tracked, whether it's a bug that needs to be fixed or it's a feature request or so on. So those are things that you can automatically sort of tie just the same way as an account is tied to the JIRA to-do task, if you will. Now, the next thing we can also do in terms of this integration is to create a wiki page for this account. So one of the first things we will do actually is to have a page within Confluence that reflects some of the core attributes of the account and whatever is happening to it internally. So you'll see that there's a templated page created within Confluence for this, and some information for the account will automatically get transferred from Salesforce. So all we have to do here is to just save the page, and the template itself defines a number of different things that we want to represent for that account. So now you'll see the account, the title of the account here, some description from Salesforce automatically gets pulled in, contact information is pulled in here. And then also, for example, here, you'll see that since we created a to-do item, that item is also captured here. And it's flagged obviously because there's no due date associated with it, so it's not clear whether it's pending or but it needs some kind of an action. So that's the level of integration. Now you're seeing 3 applications or information from 3 applications that is coming together on a single page here. You can also, for example, create action items here. So if you don't want to spend too much time within Salesforce itself, or if there are people internally that want to coordinate various to-do activities related to a customer or create other task types, you can do that from within Confluence page itself. So here we will do another one, say, set up training schedule for BDI, okay? We can put some date here. We can assign it to someone, for example. And you can see that this task is automatically linked also to the customer. So again, it's another to-do task type. It's linked back to BDI within JIRA. And because we've created it from within Confluence, it'll be another one of the pending items, as you can see it here. But if you go back to Salesforce, you will also see it here. So this, again, is an example of information flow across applications that all of them are starting to see the same information, regardless of where it was originated. And what it, as long as it's contextually linked. So here in this example, we have integrated Salesforce with Confluence and JIRA. Within Confluence, we have shown you how you can pull all this information together to create account level dashboards, if you will. You can also create tasks and stuff. You can capture case information and whatever is happening to the case itself, on the same page, for example. So this becomes an account dashboard, if you will, that everyone can share within the organization and know what's happening to a specific account. Now let's go to now what else you can do with this level of integration. So as I said, the second theme of what I want to demo is how you can now take the accounts that you've captured, maybe even cases, for example, and start to integrate them with product releases. So in this particular case, what we can do, for example, is we have a project called Wikidsmart in JIRA, and there's a project page for it, similar to an account page within Confluence itself. So what we can do, for example, is we can associate a project to multiple stakeholders. So since we defined BDI, for instance, or BD integrators, so we will add them to this particular project, and so that they can be represented as a stakeholder for any project-related activities. So in this case, there's a number of different stakeholders defined for the for Wikidsmart project, and BD integrators is one of them. So now what we can do, for example, is we can create a feature or define a new feature. And there you'll start to see a number of these concepts that are coming together from different sources. So let's say that we define a feature called the Hadoop connector. So using Wikidsmart's smart templates, you can create form-based structures, and these are very customizable, extensible templates. So they will allow you to create, for example, account level pages or features and requirements, test suites, and so on, the things that we'll show you today. In this case, there's a feature template, if you will, a form-based structure that allows you to provide some, some high-level description about a feature that you want to implement. So again, you're looking at this in Confluence 4.2, so you can use rich text to capture various informational items such as summary and description here. So here you can provide summary. This is a detailed description of the feature and business case and so on. So, but you'll see, for example, automatically the feature is linked to the project because we initiated this from that particular project. So when we save it, now we have established some sort of a baseline for a feature definition as a PM. So, and now we can get into it and start to define more specific use cases and requirements that may pertain to that feature. Now, in this particular scenario, and again, the structure of the templates that you create can be specific to how you define artifacts within your organization. But in this particular scenario, you have a high-level feature definition, and then there may be certain use cases that you can define that provide a little bit more description of who will be using the feature and or the specific aspects of the feature. And then you can also define requirements. Now, in requirements, the idea is that these are the items that will be provided to engineering or development for implementation. So we can add a bunch of different requirement items here for the feature, and then we can start. And again, all of these are associated back to the project to which the feature has been linked. But you'll see as we start to add requirements, the components that you're looking at in the list here that you can select the requirement for or associated requirement to are coming from JIRA, because those are the components that have been defined for Wikidsmart project in JIRA. The stakeholders are coming here from Salesforce. So now this here is how you start to actually link sales to engineering, because you've defined, you've created some accounts or defined your customers somewhere, and now you've actually started to associate these customers to specific requirements, so that in the end you can start to know or have a list of what accounts a particular feature or release is serving, and for any given customer, what are all the requirements and features, for example, that they may have requested. So here we can define some, provide some detailed description of a requirement item, for example. We can select which component it might pertain to. We can select one or many stakeholders, for instance, that that have requested it, or for whom this feature or this particular requirement is pertinent. And so now we've got feature and requirement items here. We can start to take the next steps. For example, we can define test suite and test cases associated with these requirements. We can initiate the review process, for example, at the requirement level or at the feature level. So here, again, as part of this integration and interoperability between these tools, you'll see that at the requirement level, all I have to do is push a button, and automatically a JIRA task is created, and it enters a approval workflow. So you can create workflows within JIRA, and you'll see the task, the approval task, that's created, that's reflected right here. You can also, without having to go to JIRA, you can approve, reject, or defer a particular item. So this is the level of interoperability you can achieve in terms of Confluence, JIRA, Salesforce, and other tools using this platform. So the idea here in showing you these two different ways of interacting with JIRA is that you can create approval items and just interact with them without having to leave Confluence. But if you want to actually create a development task, if you will, or an implementation task, then you actually want to bring up JIRA issue creation screen or page, because you want to provide some additional details. For example, you want to schedule it for a particular date. You may want to assign it to someone, and maybe put some priority and some version information there for which the task is intended. But you'll see that a lot of the information related from that requirement is automatically populated into the issue. And also, you'll see, for example, that the requirement is also automatically linked back to the task. And if you wanted to, the case information is also available here, so that, or case instances are also available so that you can capture those. So now we've created an implementation task here that engineering can start working on. And for developers themselves, as they're assigned the task, they'll always have reference to the requirement item automatically. And then if they need more details, not only can they see the requirement item itself, but they can see the full context of the feature within which it was defined and any other additional requirements that may be relevant in understanding what needs to be done. So those are all the sort of integration points and how things are starting to get linked together, because not only is a developer assigned a particular task with some description of what they're needing to do, but they can also access the high-level feature definition within the context of that, as well as know the stakeholders who had requested it and whomever has approved this task and so on and so forth. So if you were to refresh this, for example, you'll see from a product manager's point of view, all the information related to the task is automatically reflected right here. So, and we can continue this basically to the next step here in, you start with a feature, you start defining it, you may assign it to developers, but you can also then go and, play the role of QA and create a test suite associated with this feature. So all of uh, the description of the feature itself and all of its components will automatically be reflected within the context of test cases that you create. So you'll see, for example, Hadoop connector test suite. I mean, the title is automatically generated. The test suite itself is linked back to this particular feature, and now you can put some summary and description for the test suite, which relates to the general strategy for what the test suite will achieve. So, for example, is it a regression test suite, or is it a functional regression or functional testing or whatever? And not only that, you can also associate specific types for it. So we can say this test suite is for patch verification. We can have it reference specification document or test specification document linked to it automatically. So in this manner, you can create multiple test suites associated with a feature if you want to, for example, use them for different purposes, because each test suite then acts as a set of test cases. Now, taking this forward, what I'll show you here is that as you start to create test cases, you can see that for each test case, there are a number of different attributes that you can provide. For example, priority. So maybe there's certain test cases you want to flag as high priority. Those could be part of patch regression, for example. So you can select priority. You can select specific components that the test case is associated with, as well as requirement. So the idea here is that now you can start to link test case to specific requirement items as well as components to which they represent, so that you can track at a requirement level, at a component level, what test cases have been defined for it, and then we'll show you soon whether or not they've been executed. So for each test case, using the template, you can also add test steps, for example, precondition, postcondition, and so on and so forth. So there's a number of different ways you can achieve this, but in this case, as we show you, you can create a full suite of tests, if you will, pertaining to a particular purpose, whether it's patch regression or functional regression, and then provide the definition for the test right here. And now we can go into the execution of the test and how you would actually go about both using Selenium as well as manual testing, and then tracking the test results. So for that one, actually, we will just take you to examples that we already have. And again, as Andrew had pointed out, we have a sandbox where you can see a lot of these features and the examples and of templates and stuff that we've already created. And this particular demo also is actually right out of the sandbox itself. So what I'll do here is I'll just show you some of the pre-built examples, if you will. So here's, for instance, an example of a feature called Smart Templates that we've created, and it's got some summary description, business case, and so on, and some use cases, etc. also. So in this particular case, we have a couple of different test suites. So let's look at one of them. For example, Sauce on Demand test suite. And here you'll see some of the capabilities of our integration between um, Confluence, JIRA, and Selenium. So now we started with account creation and sales to feature definition to test definition, and now we'll talk about test execution. So one of the other things Wikidsmart allows you to do is it allows you to capture Selenium scripts associated with test cases. So for example, we define test case here, and this will provide some information about that test case, what it's supposed to do, what its pre-post conditions are. But you can also actually paste or reference Selenium scripts if you want to automate this test case. So in this case, there's a Python script here that will execute this particular test case. And the script is saved in Subversion, so you can version them. And now if you want to actually execute the test, so you can either execute the test by itself, or you can execute a whole lot of them through batch execution. So if you want to execute the whole test suite, then that is also possible here. But we'll just, as an example, show you this one. So if I want to execute a test for any particular execution, it will create a JIRA task. So this more or less represents a test run, if you will. So here I will associate it with a particular version. So in this case, Wikidsmart 2.0, I'm going to run this test for 2.0. And you'll see that it's automatically linked back to the test case. So this is an execution task. And now I have a choice of either manually testing it, in which case I go through a test execution workflow and capture the results and post the update, or I can just execute a script here, for example. Because there's a script associated with this test case, I can do that. And now as the test starts to execute, you will see, for example, you can, for one or many tests, you can see the process dashboard. So if you have 100 or 500 of these tests running, for example, then you'll see that you can keep an eye on the dashboard, and because it may take a few hours for them to run. And then once the test is done executing, then the result is automatically brought back into the JIRA issue itself. And you can see, for example, that the status is updated. So in this case, the test executed and it was successful. So you can always go back to the result itself to see what happened, and if you want to look at the detail. And this is basically what's coming back from Selenium. And you'll also see that the status was updated automatically. So this is essentially how you can start with a feature and define test cases and start executing those test cases to track the quality of the implementation of the feature. And if at any point in time you go back to the test case itself, so this is where closing the loop quickly before we get to questions, you can see, for example, I click back on that test execution task. I can come back to the test case itself defined within Confluence itself. Now, if I were to click on this icon, which gives me the properties of the test case itself, here is where I can start to see what's happening, what has happened. So here's the test case. Here's the requirement that it's associated with, and it's part of these two test suites, for example. And here are the test execution results, for instance. So this basically gives you the ability to see how many different what versions the test was executed, what are the results, when did it fail, and so on. Now you can do this at the test case level, you can do this at the requirement level. So as you start to loop back in terms of leveraging all of this integration and starting to see the traceability of it, you can look at it at all levels. You can see it at the test case level. You can go and see it at the requirement level. So here's a requirement, for example. These are all the test cases associated with it. Here's the approval task for this requirement, and this is the here it will show you um, what releases it was executed in, and what the results were, and so on. So this is basically the test history of this requirement. And then you can also, for example, if there are any bugs reported against the requirement, they would be reflected here. And as I said, I mean, you can continue at all levels. So starting with a test case, we went to the requirement. Now we can actually even look at it at the release level, for example. So we can say, okay, let's see what's happening with the release. So Wikidsmart 2.0, for example, it will automatically create a dashboard within Confluence that you can use as part of your weekly triage to see how the release itself is progressing. And so here is the release level detail. So these are all the requirements scheduled for this particular release. These are the implementation tasks. Here's the status. And then if there's additional information, these are all the bugs. For example, here's the status of the bugs, and and so on and so forth. So depending upon how the release is progressing, you can get all of that information at the release level. You can get that information at the project level, and so on. So I think I will actually end this here, and we can go quickly to questions, Andrew, because it seems like there's a number of different questions that people had asked. So do you want to have any closing comments, and we can go to questions?
Yeah, first, thanks, Sanjeev. Great demo. Typically, just so the audience is aware, we also like to demonstrate the search because with search, you can look for precise concepts. And then when you get the results back, you can actually surf across those concepts. So for example, if I'm searching for a requirement, it gives me the requirement, but then I can see the related concepts of tasks, issues, tests, developers, product managers, QA folks, etc. So that's really cool, and I invite you to go to the sandbox and play with the search and this traceability capability. The other major thing I'd like to kind of recap and point out is Sanjeev showed you in this demo templates within the wiki pages, and those templates are completely customizable. So there's two kinds. One are forms where you're entering in data. For example, you're entering in a requirement or you're entering a test case. The other type of template is uh, a report or a query, if you will. So some of the pages he was showing, for example, the project summary, that was essentially some embedded queries that go and they look at that knowledge model that I talked about before. They get the information from the appropriate tools or applications, and they display it back in that page. So those are the two kinds of forms. One is a data entry form, and the other one is kind of a query template. So let's maybe recap it there. I think we have to wind down, actually, Sanjeev. Please send questions to sales@zagile.com, and we'll be able to follow up with the ones that have been entered here as well. I think we're counting down. Were there any other closing comments that you wanted to make, Sanjeev?
Well, maybe I'll just address some of the key questions if we have a couple of minutes. I think one question was related to Greenhopper. And Greenhopper creates a number of different concepts, like story, for example. And so we support that. So what you can do, for example, is just the same way as other JIRA issue types are captured, like task and bug and so on. You can also capture Greenhopper concepts as well as attributes that it adds to JIRA issues. And you can link them. So in one particular scenario, we've actually defined a feature within Confluence and linked it to stories within Greenhopper. So that allows you to still leverage Greenhopper as and its planning board and stuff. But now you can have a more higher level view at the feature level and all of the stories that are associated with the feature. Another question was related to Wikidsmart and its integration with Subversion and Fisheye. So we actually have connectors for both, although typically it would be better to use Fisheye as a layer above Subversion and other version control systems. Anyway, I think I just wanted to address a couple of those quickly, but any others we can definitely capture and respond to via email.
Great. So thank you everyone for attending. This concludes the webinar. We will have the recording posted probably later today, but latest by tomorrow. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.